Questions?
Yeah, these are a few lines from Tao Te Ching, uh, chapter 16, and the lines, and I wanted to understand what is meant by constant.
Okay, good. Chapter 16. You mind if I read it?
Yeah,
Mm. Attain the climax of emptiness. Attain the climax of emptiness. Preserve the utmost quiet. As the myriad things act in concert, I thereby observe the return. Things flourish, then each return to its root. Returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called return to life. Return to life is called the constant. Knowing the constant is called enlightenment. Acts at random, in ignorance of the constant, bode ill. Knowing the constant gives perspective. This perspective is impartial. Impartiality is the highest nobility. The highest nobility is divine, and divine is the way. This way is everlasting, not endangered by physical death. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to read it again, but I want to point out a few things. The word life is capitalized here, and the word way is capitalized. So here we go, one more time. Attain the climax of emptiness. Preserve the utmost quiet. As the myriad things act in concert, I thereby observe the return. Things flourish, and then each returns to its root. Returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called return to life. Return to life is called the constant. Knowing the constant is called enlightenment. Acts at random in ignorance of the constant bode ill. Knowing the constant gives perspective. This perspective is impartial. Impartiality is the highest nobility. The highest nobility is divine, and the divine is the way. This way is everlasting, not endangered by physical death. And this, another way to name this book would be the Book of the Way. Okay, that's another translation of Tao, the Book of the Way, capital W. Okay, this is a great passage you picked out. Thank you. So, uh, I know you have questions about the constant, right? But before we get there, I'd like to talk a little bit about the prior passages.
yeah,
Attain the climax of emptiness. I'm sorry?
yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay. Attain the climax of emptiness, preserve the utmost quiet. As myriad things act in concert, I thereby observe the return. Okay, so this is gorgeous. Just this practice alone. So everything in the world has its ups and its downs, right? It has its waxing and its waning, the tides, the weather, the temperature, the seasons, even the interactions between people. Um, if they're fighting, there is a climax. If they're making love, there is a climax. But after the climax, then things return, right? So, but here they're talking about the climax of emptiness. Get to the highest point you can in emptiness and understanding what emptiness is. Interdependent origination, the fact that nothing exists inherently on its own, the fact that nothing lasts in time or in space. You know, if you just stretch it out long enough, you'll see that everything returns to stillness. No matter what it is, it returns to stillness. Attain the climax of emptiness. In other words, attain the peak of emptiness. Preserve the utmost quiet. So you get to the peak of emptiness and you just stay quiet. As the myriad things act in concert, I thereby observe the return. So you can even with your own mind, get to, so your mind is all jumbled and running around and tumbling and doing all the crazy things minds do. But then one settles it down, and if you turn the light around, everything vanishes at this stage. And then as you contemplate or look at the myriad things, the 10,000 things, the birds, the trees, the politics, the cloud, the rain, whatever it is, it's going to return to their source. All phenomena return to their source. So that's worth putting on your refrigerator. All phenomena return to their source. And we are phenomena, okay? The human experience is a phenomenon. I thereby observe the return. Things flourish, and then each returns to its root. So something, let's use a tree as an example, but we could use a human being too. We flourish, right? And we grow older and stronger and healthier and more intelligent, or whatever it may be. But then all of us, everything in this universe returns to its root. Even the earth will return to its root. The earth only has the earth and the universe has a lifespan too, right? So things flourish, then every one of them returns to its root. Returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called return to life with a capital L. So returning to the root is called stillness. Which is the same thing as returning to life or consciousness or big mind or Buddha or the kingdom of heaven or Atman or Allah or there's endless names for God. Endless. You can go on forever. None of them capture God. None of them have any, a word is just a word. But also everything that you look at in nature or everything you look at in the city, sooner or later it's going to return to stillness. And in that stillness we find life with a capital L, understanding. The Nagual is another word, the Nagual. But again, these are just words, okay? Return to life with a capital L is called the constant. Knowing the constant is called enlightenment. So life and consciousness are the same thing, because without consciousness there's not life. And scientists are learning this, and it's wonderful to watch as a biologist in particular at the moment that I'm thinking of, understand that life and consciousness can't be separated. They're the same thing. And so in the Bible it talks about, or in the Torah or wherever, both, they talk about God breathing life into the planet. That's the same thing as breathing the light of consciousness into the planet, into parts of the planet. Okay, so returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called return to life. Return to life is called the constant. Knowing the constant is called enlightenment with a small e. So knowing the constant is to turn the light around to awareness itself, to the source of the mind and the source of everything that exists. And the source of everything that exists is the Nagual. It's God. It's and there's thousands of words for this, but it's the essence. It's the underlying essence of all things. Okay, so returning to the root is called stillness. Stillness is called return to life, capital L. Return to life is called the constant. Knowing the constant is called enlightenment. Acts in random, in ignorance of the constant, bode ill. So if you're acting at random, just kind of like, my mind says this, and you haven't checked in with God, or checked in with awareness, or checked in with consciousness, or checked in with the Nagual, or checked in with Atman, or whatever you want to put there as a approximation, a placeholder in words for the reality itself, then those acts bode ill. Acts at random in ignorance of the constant bode ill. And that's why this practice of turning the light around is so useful, because as you go through your day, you can just check in. It's like a prayer. You just check in with the constant. You check in with awareness itself, capital A. And then you act, if you're going to act. And then now you're working with the spirit. You're doing the will of God. You're doing the will of the way. You're acting not from your mind, but from your heart, from your spirit, from the constant. Knowing the constant gives perspective. This perspective is impartial. So when you go back here, okay, so your mind's got all kinds of judgments. Oh, this person's horrible. Oh, that country's horrible. Oh, that culture's no good. Oh, that plant's ugly. Oh, that woman's too skinny. Oh, I don't like those people. All those are judgments, right? But when you're in the constant, when you're in the state of awareness, you're not judgmental like that. On the contrary, there's no judgment. Is from the mind, the small mind, discrimination and the small little petty mind things. Oh, I don't like that person because they're a Republican. I don't like that person because they're a Democrat. Just silliness like that. And when you're in the constant, you can see that we're all human beings, for example. And the constant's another word for love, frankly. So acts at random in ignorance of love bode ill. Love with a capital L. Knowing the constant gives perspective. This perspective is impartial, right? Impartiality is the highest nobility. The highest nobility is divine. That's pretty straightforward. And the divine is the way with a capital W. So the way becomes another word for God. And so this becomes the book of God. But again, words are limited and limiting, and we can put 1,000 different labels. We can put 1,000,000 different labels. None of them will be God or truth or consciousness with a big C. Or in this particular text, it's called the constant. This way is everlasting, not endangered by physical death. And again, this is the immortality promised to us by virtually every religion that I know of. And that's the truth, because we move beyond space and time. And so that's more than immortality. That's even more than we can possibly understand with our human brains. Over here. Okay, so now what's the question? And thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, I had a follow-up on that.
Okay.
So now as I have been doing this practice of turning the light around, what I'm seeing is now I can I can experience the awareness and still continue functioning or doing the things that I'm doing to some extent. Uh, uh, is that what you meant by checking in with the Nagual? Is experiencing that awareness, and that's
Okay.
it, or do you mean something?
Make that into a question.
Yeah. So you said check in with the Nagual constantly. What do you mean by that? Checking in with the Nagual.
Okay. Now we're mixing two traditions here, and that's okay, because different folks respond to different things. So here we're using. Do they mention the Nagual in Journey to Itzlan? Do you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're using a Native American indigenous tradition called Nagualismo. They also call it, there's a lot of different words, but again, words are just limited and limiting. We're using that, and we're using the Tao Te Ching, which I read from earlier, and we're using the secret of the golden flower. And what we're doing is we're learning that they're all saying the same thing. They all point to the same thing. So yes, in the secret of the golden flower, they talk about turning the light of attention around, and then for you, we would need to know, tell me what that's like when you turn the light of awareness around. What happens? Let's say in the sitting meditation.
So then there is this experience of being at the very back and just being aware of everything, including uh, myself. And then there's also a stillness of someone watching at the same time.
Okay.
Someone being aware of everything, basically. Yeah.
Okay. So that's the first step in the right direction. Okay. You're getting to the observing ego. You're getting to the part of mind that observes. Right. And so that's very good. And that's a very good practice to do until you can fully turn it around. But so when you're able to do that, you said during the day, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could be at work or you could be ordering coffee at Starbucks or something like that, and you could still turn that light around and observe. Okay, so that's called the observing ego. That's a good first step. But what you've done is you've kicked big mind back a level. And so let's imagine this is, I mean, a small mind back a little. So let's imagine this is mine, right? This is your mind. Now what you've done is you've gone boom and you've gone backwards, and you have a bigger scope. You can see more, and you can watch yourself. You can watch your body. You can watch your mind. You can watch the other person. You can see all the objects of awareness. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, that's observing ego. And what you need to do is keep doing that and keep studying these texts, because the next step is the step into the Nagual, into the infinite, into awareness, the constant, Buddha nature. Uh, let's see. Let's pick a tradition and let me stick with those words for now, because otherwise I could spend literally the whole time just talking about the million names there are for God for the same thing. The immortal is another word for it. Which tradition shall we use for now?
Let's stick. Let's stick to Taoism.
Taoism. Okay, good. So in the passage that we just read, that's referred to as the constant, the thing that doesn't change, the thing that's always there, the thing that doesn't climax, doesn't fall apart, doesn't come and go, doesn't change at all. It's the constant. And so the next step is to get to the constant. Turn the light of awareness around to the source of awareness, which is another way of saying the constant. The source of awareness is the constant. The constant is the divine. The divine is, whatever word you want to substitute in there. The merciful, the compassionate. That's the way the Muslims put it. It's gorgeous. Okay. Another question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Question.
So in your last video, you mentioned about look who is watching, who's observing. Uh, so when I do that, mind draws a blank because it's not able to figure out who is watching, and there's a just like thing stops because I don't know who, I can't know who's watching because everything I imagine or think about is still within. It's like an object. So
Okay, so then what we might do, because of the limits of the human brain and the human mind, small m mind, we might ask, what is watching?
even that draws a blank.
Okay, all right, so just stay there in the blank. Stop the internal dialogue. Stay in the blank for now. Good. Just stay there. Don't leave. Just be there with it, and then you'll start to understand what's being said here. All right.
I
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have another follow up on that.
All
So
right.
now, when I seek what's watching and I draw a blank, the experience of that phenomena is different than when I am just watching or turning the light around.
Okay, you
Because
said
when I'm
what's
just,
watching. You said what's watching, correct?
yeah, yep.
So what part of your experience makes you think it's watching? Or did your mind just insert that?
So I experience the watching, and I want to get to the source of who's watching,
There you go.
because someone is watching. So I want to find
No, whoa,
out
whoa, whoa.
who is
How do you
what.
know someone is watching?
Because 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 I can see the breathing, the objects, everything going on, and that I is watching.
Okay,
So who is
so
this
this is where the
I?
Zen master would bang, pop you on the head and say, keep meditating.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
if you need to stay in the blank, stay in the blank. But just because there's a blank doesn't mean you have to insert a word or a concept.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm. So this thing of drawing a blank to figure out who's or what's watching,
Where does this word watching comes from? Did anybody call it the watcher? I mean,
or who's observing, is the observing is the, I guess I'm using the, so for me
your mind is
observing.
twisting. Your mind is twisting, trying to find the word, trying to find the concept. Right?
Hmm.
Keep at it, and eventually your mind will say, "We'll give up on that."
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I observed, that there's a struggle.
That's what you
uh,
observe, and that's
yeah,
exactly
that's
going
what.
back to what I said before. You've taken a step in the right direction. Now you're the observing ego. It's still
Hmm.
the mind observing.
Hmm.
So this takes time, right?
Hmm.
And so literally,
Yeah.
what the old masters would do is they send you back to the pillow, right? If you were in a
Hmm.
monastery, and you'd meditate for a few more days. All right, and then we come to the next question, okay? Because otherwise, we're being counterproductive at this point. I'm gonna
Hmm.
have to call it. So,
Okay.
all right. Next
Hmm.
question.
Yeah. So I have been contemplating on both the practices, the breath practice to make the breath subtle, and the other one of turning the light around,
To make the breath
or even
subtle. So you've been
inquire.
practicing. Okay, tuning the breath. We call that tuning the breath, making it
Mhm.
subtle, making it fine, making it smooth, which you can only do when you're still. All right, so you've been doing that, and you've been
The turning the light around
okay. Describe turning the light around.
is basically I take an object, then I bring it back behind my head,
Mm-hmm.
and then everything disappears, and there's this experience of just existing or awareness, and that's it.
Okay. First of all, the object that was a metaphor that I created because of the circumstance. It's just a metaphor. So I mean, you may want to do this in the beginning, just as a as a practice exercise. The idea of moving your attention from here back here, to behind your head,
Hmm.
or to the back of your skull, or backwards, or I don't want to give too many words to it. But remember, that's just a metaphor, and a crude one. All right. I mean, it probably works, but it's just a metaphor. All right. So now
It,
turn the light of awareness around, and then you get to what you get to describe it to me.
this this quiet and the knowing all the awareness of all the objects, and the feeling of maybe space.
Okay. How many objects are there?
I think I'm not even thinking about counting the objects. It's just the feeling of everything being in. It's like I have a like an infinite body, and then everything is in within that body,
Okay,
infinite body.
that's very nice. But in this practice, there should be no objects, none whatsoever. But that's again, the danger of me teaching like this is that people hear my words and then they're responding to suggestion rather than discovery. And so I don't want to spend more time on this with you because you're making good progress. But if I do any more, I'm just going to be suggesting things to you. And this is not this enterprise is not about using hypnosis or using suggestion or using belief or using indoctrination or any of those things. It's the opposite. It's setting someone free, or helping them set themselves free is actually more accurate. And so at this point, I'm going to have to call it and say, if we go much further with this, I will be suggesting to you more than is indicated if I'm to be a responsible coach or teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So
Mm-hmm.
let's move to another subject and then keep working at it and read the text.
Okay.
Now you've advanced enough along where you can go back and study the text. So
Mm-hmm.
good news, right? I'm not discouraging. I'm
Mm-hmm.
encouraging, and I'm saying you made good
Mm-hmm.
progress. But now you got to get there. You got to travel in your own land for a bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Question.
Got it.
Good though. It's heartening.
Uh, so this one is this one is from Learning How to Learn.
Okay.
This is it's a couple of lines that was said in the book. Many
Okay. Wait a
people
minute.
who are in
Wait a minute. Let's tell people about learning how to learn. The Sufis in the 20th century wrote a series of texts in English. Woo, man, you don't know how valuable that is. And some of them were for the public. One was called The Sufis, Fabulous Reviews, introduction by Robert Graves. These are all by Idries Shah. Tales of the Dervishes, magnificent book. You should have it. Tales of the Dervishes. And were there other public books? Oh, there was a book on the Afghan war called Kara Kush for military buffs. Uh, there were some comedy books called The Natives Have Gone Restless. But those are books are for connoisseurs, really. And so, but then there was a series of books that were for students. And one of these books is called Learning How to Learn. Was that the first book in the series?
no, that was not the first book in the
Okay, all
series.
right. So these books are prescribed in an order, for a reason, and it's a comprehensive program of both spiritual and uh, psychological and social maturity and psychology. It's absolutely brilliant, and I recommend it to anybody who's serious about understanding their mind. All right. So what's the question from Learning How to Learn?
Yeah. So in this, he says, I will just read out the lines that he says, as the Sufi ancient Abul Hasan Kirkani stated, many people who are in reality dead are walking in the streets. Many who are in their graves are in reality alive.
Okay. So
So in
so
this
just stop
one,
right there. Let me repeat it. So as this Sufi ancient put it, many of the people who are walking in the street are dead. They're the walking dead. And many who are in their graves are in fact alive. So what's the question?
yeah. So like when I read that, it seemed to me that okay, he's talking about people who are spiritually dead, and then they
Not just
are
spiritually dead, they're mentally dead too. They're automatons,
yeah,
they're
they're
NPCs. They just, they do whatever the media says that tells them to do. They believe everything they hear on the news. And if they say, you need to do this, everybody they go do it, right?
hmm
They're the walking dead. And
hmm
do you see them?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I
any
see
thoughtful
them.
person realizes that sometimes they can be speaking to someone and they speak perfectly good English, but they're dead inside. They're hollow. That's what T.S. Eliot called the hollow man. Headpiece stuffed with straw. They're like scarecrows. Okay, so the
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz came to mind. So those people are essentially dead. They're the walking dead, and pray for them because their torment is great sooner or later. Okay,
Yeah.
what's the
And
question?
my question was about the second half, which says many who are in their graves are in reality alive.
Yeah, that's immortality.
Hmm.
Just contemplate that seriously, like a grown man, and it'll be obvious. And you know about the Taoist immortals, right?
Hmm.
There's immortality in Christianity. Jesus said something akin to "Follow me, you will have eternal life."
Hmm.
So, that's for you to like explore on your own. I don't want to, trample on your discovery. You need to learn this.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about it, and to me it seemed that people who were illumined or who actually became enlightened, maybe he's talking about those people because they are alive.
He is talking about them.
And okay.
Yeah, not everybody's a Taoist immortal.
Hmm.
A lot of people are just dead, but they were dead when they were alive too.
Hmm.
Not everybody enters the kingdom of heaven,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So it's a difference. There's a big difference there. Okay.
Hmm.
Next question.
Yeah. Yeah. So like as we continue the practice, at least the idea I have is eventually we realize that there is no me. Uh, it's just the consciousness, uh, uh, and there's no like soul or anything like that. There's no like separate me from everything else.
Well, is there anything like that on this earth, separate from everything else?
No, I mean
Okay, so I don't know how you can get a question out of that. But
no.
you're making
So then
statements. You're making statements, right? And it sounds like you're asking
no
my opinion.
no. So the question is that if there is no me,
Who
then
said
how
there's
can
no
some
you?
people?
Who said there was no you? Well, did you read that somewhere?
So I don't know where I read or from where I got the
Neither do
idea
neither do I. So
that.
that's why it's very hard for me to respond to because I don't know where you got that idea.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you need to check your sources on that and make sure that they're enlightened people because otherwise you're going to get all messed up if you think there's no you.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
I wouldn't say that.
Hmm.
So you're
Okay.
asking me about something that you read somewhere by someone I don't know under circumstances I have no clue about. And so what can I say except I don't know what you're talking
Hmm.
about.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. Got it. Yep.
Next question.
Uh, so another. Uh, so this is a. I think this is a quote in the very start of the book.
Which book?
In learning how to learn.
Okay.
In
You're
learning
learning
how
how to
to learn.
learn Idries Shah. Brilliant series. Truly brilliant. And also the Mullah Nasruddin is Idries Shah as well. The ones that we use for teaching for those teaching joke tales. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in the book, he says. I think it's just like a couple of lines from Shabistari, Secret Garden, 13th century. And the line says, "The world has no being but an allegory. From end to end, its state is but a farce and play."
The world has no being. It's but an allegory and a farce. What? From end to end?
Yeah,
That's
from
fun.
end to end. Its state is but a farce and play.
Its state is but a farce and play. Okay.
Yep.
So do you know what a farce is? Look it up.
Uh, yeah, it says a light dramatic composition marked by broadly satirical comedy and improbable plot.
Yeah, the world's full of clowns. It's kind of funny a lot of times. If it wasn't so, if it wasn't so uh, scary to some folks, it would be just a riot. It's so read it again. The definition:
Uh, it means a light dramatic composition
a light,
marked by
dramatic
broadly,
composition. Right? Go on.
yeah, marked by broadly satirical comedy and
Marked by
improbable plot.
broadly satirical comedy
And improbable plot.
and an improbable plot. Improbable plot. Okay, what's the question?
Yeah, so here
Improbable
it
plot
says
is a light comedy with an improbable plot.
mhm.
Yeah, when you look at it sometimes you can see it that way very easily. Oh, we got a clown show going on in this country, for example. In America, I don't know about India, but in America we got a clown show going on. Go ahead.
So so my question was, is this also about contemplating uh, and questioning the physical existence of the world that we take for granted?
Well, this one's not particularly about questioning the physical world. I mean, you're the one who says the world's physical. You're the one who needs to prove it.
Hmm.
So I was
Yeah.
studying last night scanning tunneling microscopes, the ones that use quantum mechanics in order to look at an atom. It's pretty
Hmm.
hilarious because we have some incredible technology. We can literally visualize an atom, but and then you get to the imaging and this and that, and that's to leave alone the the subatomic particles. But with the atom, because it's at the level of quantum mechanics, they can only say, well, it's probably there. We don't know where it is going to be exactly, but this is the probability. And if we just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, sooner or later an atom will show up. It's pretty outrageous. Quantum mechanics at that level. And again, that's just the atom. That's not the subatomic particle. So these days now, it's 2024. I'm turning the tables and saying it's up to somebody to prove the world is physical. Because I certainly don't see it. And more people are agreeing that there are people saying it's a simulation, for example. They're wrong, right?
Hmm.
Because they can't account for life and they can't account for true creativity with a capital C, creative, to create the universe, to create anything really. And if you read David Deutsch's the Beginnings of Infinity and look at how he defines creativity, you'll see that we ain't got it, and certainly not in any computer. Now we have it, but it's totally mysterious, like language, the origin of language. We just don't know. So yeah, so you're the one who needs to prove to me that it's physical at this point, because quantum mechanics, I think, and our relationship with time and space, the mature scientific approach to time and space these days, you it's science's job to come up with some explanation that doesn't just fall apart the minute you look at it. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I know, and it's not easy because this thing seems so physical. And it is, in a way. I mean, we call it, that's what we call it, right? But that just speaks to the sophistication of the creator,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And if people look at this world and they think that man can design something this harmonious, this intelligent, the way everything works together, and it's always in balance. It may seem out of balance to one creature, but to another creature, it's great. Like it rains for 7 days. We go, oh my God, this is horrible. What's the matter with God, right? But the ducks are saying, woohoo, party time, right? Because they like the rain. Do you see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So the network of loci practice is really important too. So you can't just look at things from the human perspective if you want to understand this world. I mean, you could, but it's very hard to appreciate all the beauty of it, for example, and the intricacy and the intelligence. I mean, now we're understanding that there's intelligence in every cell in our body. I mean, real intelligence, and that every tissue has its own, sense of we're this, and we ally with this. Don't get me started. It's just too beautiful. I'll start crying. But go ahead. What's the question?
That's it. I don't have any more
Okay.
question on that.
All right, sir. You're making good progress, asking good questions, reading good books, and drill into it. Now you start to get to the meat. Okay. We finished with the skin, right? We're not the bone. We're getting through the meat, and then you're gonna get to the bone, and then to the marrow, and there you are. Boom. All right. So just keep at it. That's all. That's what it takes. All right, sir. All right.
Got it.
I don't have to tell you to keep the faith, but I do have to warn you, if you're spending any time at all on these screens, any of them, you need, watch your mind, protect your mind, guard your mind. All right, sir? All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye.